The World Fair Trade Organization's definition of fair trade emphasizes a trading partnership with dialogue, transparency, and respect. This creates sustainable development by offering better trading conditions and rights to marginalized producers and workers in the South. The fair trade movement encompasses issues ranging from coffee production to food justice, ecotourism, and child labor. Fair trade seeks to resist power imbalances within these issues.
Power imbalances are created through dehumanization, exploitation, globalization, and capitalism. These issues lead to an unhealthy relationship between producers and consumers.
The first of these issues is dehumanization.
When organizations withhold access to basic rights for their workers, they are denying them a quality of life that supports their humanity. People are often subjected to unruly working conditions and cruel as well as unusual punishment as a result of their workplaces in developing countries. Psychologically, it is necessary to categorize these workers as subhuman in order to legitimize increased violence or justify the violation of basic human rights, and this subhuman categorization emerges as classism that starts to arise among populations.
The second way power imbalances are created is through exploitation.
In Marx's world, exploitation is when goods are not purchased at a rate that matches the amount of labor put into creating the product, and exploiters, often higher in status, get to choose how much those goods are worth, putting some at a clear disadvantage. Many organizations and corporations want the cheapest labor to make the most money, unfairly taking advantage of another group because of their inferior position, giving the exploiter the power.
Another way power imbalances are created is through globalization and capitalism.
Globalization leads the coffee industry in countries such as Peru, Guatemala, Colombia, and Mexico to suffer from extremely low profit returns, as the big international corporations thrive from the local producers' hard work, ultimately leaving coffee growers devastated due to the decrease in the value of their crops. With an increase in supply and overproduction, farmers of these countries become vulnerable to large corporations, as they would accept a significantly low amount for their product, so they could earn some profit return in order to feed their families.
Local workers are alienated from their finished products, which are shipped all over the world, especially to rich consumer countries. This creates a power imbalance between countries and people, as poor laborers become dependent on rich companies for jobs but are not fairly compensated for their work. Dehumanization, exploitation, and globalization create a power imbalance between producers and consumers.
So now understanding the issues of power imbalances, what would social justice look like in the fair trade movement? It would include better public policy, for example, the Donor Food Act of 1994 and the standards set by Fair Trade Canada.
The Donor Food Act of 1994 protects food donors who donate food to those who need it. Therefore, the donors cannot be penalized if someone gets sick from the food, which might encourage groups or organizations to responsibly use leftovers. The downside of this act is that soup kitchens are not protected under this law and must meet a number of standards in order to operate.
Fair Trade Canada licenses signature fair trade labels to organizations and businesses whose products meet the standards set by Fair Trade International. These standards are guided by core principles of social, economic, and environmental development, as well as prohibiting forced or child labor. A downside is that it can be very expensive for small businesses, arguably ones that really need the support, to gain the certification label.
This kind of public policy is advocated by the grassroots organizations we looked at who choose to resist social inequalities using a variety of strategies that fall in line with the fair trade movement. These organizations are Café Femenino, Free the Children, Rustique, and Ray of Hope.
Café Femenino, established in North Peru, is an all-female organization that began in 2004, in which the women wanted to separate their coffee from their men's as they felt they put more care into their production. Café Femenino is part of the Fair Trade International organization, which includes 3 producer networks, 25 fair trade organizations, and sets international fair trade standards, organizes support for producers, and develops global fair trade strategy. The organization provides funding to support grant requests from women in coffee-producing regions around the world. Volunteers for the organization aid in raising funds that go directly to help women, their families, and their communities.
Created using Powtoon.